My name's Martin Barclay. I'm from Pilton Cider, and we're here in Pilton Cider today in Shepton Mallet. Here to taste some cider and cheese, and I've got Roger with me from White Lake Cheese.
Hi, thanks, Martin. So I'm Roger Longman. I'm a cheesemaker from a company called White Lake Cheese next to the Bath and West. We've been making cheese for 16 years now. We farm our own goats, so we make lots of goat's cheeses, but we also buy cow's milk, Guernsey cow's milk, and some sheep's milk and make some sheep and cow's cheeses as well. And I've brought a selection of our soft cheeses here today to taste with some of Martin's fantastic local ciders. So let's have a dive in.
Cool. Well, we're going to start off with this first one, which is called Tamashanta. This is a classic keeved cider. So we specialise in making keeved cider, which is essentially made from apples, but not completely fermented. So you still got the natural sweetness from the apples, so there isn't any sugar or any other sweetener added. And Tamashanta is classic keeved cider made from a blend of apples and then fermented for a short time in these whiskey barrels. So it's got a nice sort of smooth oak character to it.
And this creates its own gas. Is that right?
It does ferment a little bit in the bottle,
okay.
but essentially no. It ferments in a tank first of all,
okay.
and then we bottle it, and then it's kind of good to go really, okay. And best to be drunk fresh and fruity. So it's a sort of drunk for the season after the apples.
Okay. So you have to age it a bit.
Well, we have some other cider which is aged maybe 1 or 2 years, so which is a different thing. But this is very much fresh and fruity, so you're tasting the fruit,
let's give it a go.
And that natural sweetness. So we need some cheese to go with this one.
Well, I think with this one, we picked the little she, didn't we?
Yes.
So before you drink all the cider, we'll get a bit of the little she. So this is a little soft sheep's cheese of the style of a brie with a beautiful white penicillin mould on it. And some people think, oh, I can't eat that because I'm allergic to penicillin, but it's a completely different type of thing. So if you are allergic to penicillin, you still can eat white moulded cheese, such as brie or little she or camembert. So I'm going to cut you a choice off. So you can see that there, you've got a lovely firm paste in the middle still, lovely rind protecting the cheese on the inside, and then it's just starting to soften and go runny on the outside.
Perfect.
Ideally it would be another week older, but it's still going to taste pretty good. So, have a good sniff. Wow, you can really...
Cheers.
Tremendous smells. Oh, that is fruity, isn't it? That's really good.
So it's a nice long fermentation. So we're just about to start pressing apples now. This time, October, November,
okay.
And then it ferments through the winter to be bottled in the spring, March, April okay. time, and then at its best in the following summer and getting into the winter.
So what sort of temperature? Is it just at room temperature, the fermentation? Is it?
It does work very well in this ambient temperature. I guess it's a bit like cheese making. In that the microbes, the yeasts that end up fermenting the cider are the ones that like the ambient conditions that they're grown in, because they're all wild indigenous yeasts. So the ones that would have liked it a bit warmer, they die out, and the ones that are happy at that ambient. So the main thing is to have consistent, steady temperature, because if the temperature changes, then that would upset the yeast that are there.
So in many respects, but you're just using the wild yeast. You're not adding yeasts and stuff to it.
For all of these, we're just using the wild yeast.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. So with our cheese, we use bacteria and yeasts. The bacteria we buy in as a freeze-dried thing to get the cheese, the milk becoming acidic, and then we can set it with a rennet to make cheese. And the yeasts that grow on our cheeses, that is wild yeast that just blow around in the air. So the French call that the terroir. It's what's native to your area. So,
right.
The apples you're using, someone else can go through the same process, but if they're doing it in a different area, they'll have different yeast, so it'll taste different. And I think
So the bacteria you buy in, but the yeasts are...
yeah,
are the
and
one.
there are, some farms, so you can make cheese just with no added bacteria, but you actually need slightly dirty milk for that. And the problem is we don't produce dirty milk in this country anymore, so it's much harder to do that style of cheese making. Now there are people who do that sort of cheese, but it's really difficult to get it consistently right. And I hate throwing cheese away, so we try and make sure it's always good. But that's a good combination.
It is great.
Even
Yes,
the wasps enjoying it. Look at that. Go away. And one of the things people are always asking is, how do you pair wines or beers and cheeses with cider? And I think a lot of the problem is people start, well, I don't know what wine I need, I don't know what cheese you need. Well, you've got to have some wine and then find cheese that fits with it, or have some cider and find a cheese that fits, or have the cheese and then buy a selection of ciders to find which one. Because we've tasted these and these are our selections.
Yeah.
But actually everyone's taste is slightly different. And to me, half the fun of this is learning different things and trying different mixes, isn't it, really?
Definitely.
No, that is an absolutely beautiful, beautiful cider. I love that. I am a big cider fan. Because in the old days, we used to, my grandfather made cider on the farm, and part of the sort of staff's wages was cider.
Right.
And when I was growing up, we'd go out making hay, and at lunchtime everyone would sit down and have lunch, and the old boys would have a big flagon of cider, which they'd quite happily drink, and then carry on driving the tractor, and that was acceptable. But that is good. So what have we got next there?
So then we're moving on to if you said the Tamashanta maybe is certainly classic traditional Kieved cider, and the next one is called Scarlet Sharp, which is perhaps a little bit more experimental.
But we love a bit of experimenting. Always good with experimenting.
So
is this the one we put with Eve, was it?
With Solstice.
This is Solstice, okay.
Yes. Fruit cider has got a bit of a bad name in the UK. Possibly because a lot of the fruit ciders are very sweet. So this is a fruit cider which is not sweet, and it's borrowing a bit of technique from craft brewing, in that a lot of the aroma that you're smelling is not from the fruit, but is actually from fruity hops.
I was going to say, again, that's a really hoppy smell, isn't it? That's fantastic.
So there's a special fruity hop called what was it called? Called Mandarina Bavaria, which has that fantastic sort of orangey aroma. And then the fruit in this is black currants from near Chard. So it's very much a Somerset thing.
Okay, so what we've got here is Solstice. So this is my attempt at making a French Epoisse style cheese. So this is Guernsey cow's milk, so a lovely yellow cheese. And then we grow a yeast on the outside. So the little she, we grow a mould on the outside. This, we grow a yeast on the outside called Brevilinens bacteria, which is, although it says bacteria, it is a yeast, bizarrely. So, and then this is washed in cider brandy. And the reason it's washed in cider brandy is to grow the yeast, you need some sugars, which is what you've got in your cider. And this is, again, a style taken from the French. They wash theirs in various alcohols, and I think a lot of their history is washing cheese in alcohol because it was safer than water.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's why people drank wines and ciders and beers, because it was fermented, so it had killed anything that was dangerous in there. So drinking alcohol is good for you. I think it's a safe option. So let's give that a go.
It's just so fantastically buttery.
Really, and this is fantastically hoppy. It's not what you'd expect from a cider at all. It's very different. That is good.
And talking a bit more about yeast, so does the yeast live off some of the sugars in the milk as well? Or?
No, because all the sugars have been converted
by the bacteria.
By the bacteria, and that's disappeared in the whey. So the lactose that's left goes out in the whey. So you can ferment whey. There's one yeast that will ferment whey and make alcohol from it. And there are various companies that do that sort of thing. Locally, there's a company called Black Cow Vodka. I've come across a sheep farm in Tasmania that makes just amazing vodka from the sheep's milk whey, and it's It's on our list of projects to have a go at some time, but yeah, I'd love to do that. But that is absolutely beautiful. That's really good. That's like combining two of my favourite things: really good hoppy beer and cider all in one. And it's not combinations don't always work, but actually that is really good. I like that. I like that a lot.
And the first cider was full 100% cider apples, so high tannin, whereas a lot of the cider in the second one are more dessert style apples. John o' Gold, so they're not so much tannin, so you don't want too much tannin.
Is that a higher sugar apple then, or not?
No, probably less sugar, but once it's sort of more or less fermented, there's not much sweetness from that anyway. But it's just not so much tannin; it's more acidity perhaps. So fresh and light.
And the blackcurrants they're adding an acidity as well, or
yes.
Because I'm not really. It doesn't taste as sweet. It doesn't taste like a fruit. I'm not a lover of fruit ciders normally, and because like you said, they're overly sweet. And this is beautiful. It's got a lovely sourness and the hoppiness to it.
Sure.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. No. Nice and really nice and sharp, and goes very well with this.
I mean, that's one of the things. You know, when you're sort of trying to pair drink and cheese together, sometimes you want opposites, which is I think was what we've got here. We've got a very nice sharp cider and quite a sweet buttery cheese, and sometimes you want them complementing each other rather than being opposite. And you know, I think. The first one, I think they very much complemented themselves, whereas this thing, I think these two, they're either ends of the spectrum. So it's a nice way of doing it. But that is beautiful. I like that a lot. Right.
So for the final one, this is a cider called Pom Pom.
Pom Pom?
Pom Pom.
As in apple.
Well, sort of, but in the apple family, there's apples, pears, and quince are the three poms in the pom.
Oh, really?
In the pom family. So this is apples and quince. And the quince, again, come from not too far away from us in Somerset, down at Lidford on the Foss.
Yeah.
On the banks of the River Brue, there's a big cider apple orchard there, and where some of the trees have died because it's been too wet, they've been planting quince trees.
And is that because they survive the wet better?
The quince don't seem to mind the wet so much.
Okay.
So this is quince and apples, and quince has a fantastically strong aroma and astringency, but with a nice smooth, sweet keeved cider, then it goes together very well.
Right, I think when we tried these last time, we out of our range, we selected one goat's cheese Eve, which is, again, it's like the little she, it's a soft white, soft cheese that made with goat's milk, but to make it even more interesting, we actually, again, wash it in cider brandy, and although the cider brandy in this case is not trying to grow a yeast, it's trying to slow down the mould growth, so we get a much thinner mould rind on this, and then we wrap it in a vine leaf, which bizarrely comes from California, because the varieties of vineyards here, the leaves are just too big and woody.
Right. Yeah,
which is really frustrating, because I'd love to be able to use local leaves.
And are those leaves grown just for the leaf rather than for the fruit as well? Do you know? Or
I'm not entirely sure. I need to go to California to find out. Clearly, don't I? So
a trip,
yeah. I've been to cheese shows in California, but not actually had time in the vineyards there. And again, you can see it's a nice firm in the middle with a few little holes, and then round the outside, it's just starting to soften. And we set it at this age because it gives people the option to have it as a fresh young cheese like this, or keep it for another couple of weeks, not in the fridge, ideally in your larder if you've got a larder, and then it goes beautifully running. And people think, oh, goat cheese, it's really stinky stuff, but it's not at all. It doesn't have to be. It can be if we want it to be. I know how to make it stinky if you want a stinky cheese.
Right.
But actually, you get beautiful, sweet, soft flavours with this. And we get a lot of people who can't eat cow's cheeses anymore, but like soft cheeses. So this is perfect. And the vine is lovely to eat as well. There's no reason you can't eat it. And that's a sort of Greek thing. They've done lots of sort of stuffed vine leaves, don't they? So I think that's where the idea for a vine leaf came from.
And adds a different dimension to the texture of eating it.
And it looks really good on a Christmas cheese board because it's green. I just need some red berries. So let's have a go at this. So this is the Pom Pom. Oh, wow. Really smell that. Sorry you guys can't smell it, but it's scratch and sniff. Oh wow, that is very different. Really, it's got that extra little kick to it. It's a lovely cider, but an extra kick.
Yes,
isn't it?
yes, that sort of sharpness and unique quince astringency.
Yeah. A little bit more of the cheese for that. That's a good mix. So how long have you been making cider now?
10 years, so we started in 2010. Wow. So 10 years this year.
Still learning?
Definitely, still learning. And it's been interesting to see over that time that the cider market has changed. Lots of different products, but a lot more innovation and things like quince, other people making ciders with quince.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more ciders to explore and enjoy now. It's a bit more open out.
Yeah.
Yeah, good time for cider.
It is. Yeah, I do enjoy my cider, I must admit.
We're so lucky in this area. We've got this massive concentration of cider apples, so genuine high tannin cider apples.
So what's the tannin? What's importance about the tannin then? Is that
if apple juice is fermented to dry, all of the sugar is converted to alcohol, and if you were to ferment an eating apple, then there wouldn't be much flavour left. So a lot of the aroma is quite volatile and doesn't really stay in the finished product. Whereas tannin and those more stable products that will stay and give flavour to the finished cider.
Tannin is not a sugar though.
No. So like tannin in tea or in red wine.
Okay.
So the difference really between a red wine and a white wine, I guess, is tannin.
Right.
So in the world of apples, if you like, China and Poland grow many more apples than the UK. But the UK, this southwest and the three counties, is the biggest concentration of high tannin cider apples in the world. So
you can't just eat a cider apple. Is it too bitter?
They're far too good for eating.
Yeah.
It's for making cider.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But yeah. So we and. Looking a little bit, you have to tell me about White Lake, about the name White Lake, because we've been thinking really that we get apples from a range of different orchards, really between the River Brue in the south and the River Sheppey in the north, which run out and join.
And White Lake runs right to the middle of that.
Exactly. Yes.
So the reason we call White Lake is the White Lake River actually starts on our farm.
Right.
It's a little spring that comes out in a ditch, and that's the start, and it then flows underneath the Fosse Way. Goes through Glastonbury Festival site, goes round Glastonbury Tor, and then finally joins into the Brue just as a side of Glastonbury Tor somewhere, I think. So and we picked that because it's a good local name, but also because goat's milk is very white, goat's cheese is very white.
Right.
So when people say, "Oh, how do you know whether it's a goat, cow, or sheep's cheese?" It's very simple. Goat's cheese is always white, cow's cheese should be yellow, and sheep's cheese should be an off-white, creamy colour.
Okay.
So that's an easy way of. If you're not sure, if you've got some cheese and you're not sure what animal it's from, that's an easy rule of thumb. But then you get people who have mixed cheeses. So halloumi traditionally is goat and sheep mixed together. Nowadays it's mainly cow's milk in it because it's a lot cheaper. But we do a halloumi style cheese called houmi, which is goat and sheep mixed, and that's beautiful. And it's really, really creamy because we have the high butter fat of sheep. You get a much creamier flavour, whereas I think a lot of the halloumi you buy in the supermarkets is not enough fat in it.
Right.
Which is in theory healthier, but actually cheese is fat. Cheese is fat and protein, and it's really good for you.
Yeah.
You need all our cheeses are vegetarian, and it's a really good meat substitute for vegetarians' cheese, really. Because they need protein. Everybody needs protein. We can't live on cider alone, unfortunately. We can try, but we're going to need some other stuff.
Cheers. Goes together very well.